Hello, Andi here. Hi everybody, I am Andi. I am mom to 5, second generation homeschooler, and I am a part of a group called Brave Scopes, and they give us a weekly idea to scope about, and this week it is how we do history. So today I'm going to be talking about History Odyssey from Pandia Press. Yeah, second generation. So hello everybody. Pandia Press, they have history and science, and we do both of them. Hi Jenny. And we really enjoy both subjects. It's a lot of hands-on curriculum, short lessons. You can make them into short lessons, so it's very Charlotte Mason friendly if that's what you're looking for. So like I said, I am a homeschool mom to 5, and 3 of my kids are in school. My younger 2 are doing preschool. Pandia Press is not well known, but I think I've met one person who had heard about them before I talked to them about Pandia Press. So I really enjoy their stuff. And so today I'm going to show you a little bit of what we've done. We have ancient history and Middle Ages, and we're almost finished with Middle Ages. So we are going to be going into the early modern history, which will be exciting for us. We're really excited to get into that 1600 to 1850. So we're looking forward to finishing up Middle Ages and moving on to modern history. So hello everybody, welcome. I am Andi. You can find me on Instagram at appleandigould, and let's get started. So the way the history curriculum works, they recommend, oh good, I'm so glad that this will be good for you to see what it's like and see if it'll work for you guys. They give you 2 options to use as your main curriculum, and we chose Story of the World, and the other one that they recommend is, let's see if it says it here, Children's History of the World. Hi, Allison. So Children's History of the World, we tried it for a couple of lessons. We got it from the library, tried it out. Nobody liked it. So we went back to Story of the World. It's just fit better with our family for our interest. And the way it reads, it was just a better flow for our family. So we stuck with Story of the World. The Children's History, it is the Calvert Education Services. So some of the other, they call them required resources. We did not use everything on their list, but I'm going to show you what we did use. They recommend the Usborne Internet Linked Encyclopedia, and we use this for every lesson. You look at 1 page every lesson. And they recommend the history pockets, and we really have fun with the, oh, I'm sorry. So Pandia Press puts out History Odyssey, and this is the history curriculum that we've used for a few years. And so the books that you're using are not from them. The only thing you're using from Pandia Press is the actual curriculum guide, and it walks you through what you're going to do for each lesson. So History Odyssey wants you to have either Story of the World or Children's History of the World. And then, actually, you know what? I'm not sure if there is a Middle Ages. They don't recommend it for the Middle Ages, so I don't think that there is one, a pocket history for Middle Ages. And the encyclopedia, they update this all the time. The one that we have is from several years ago. I got it used, and yeah, I really don't think that they have a Middle Ages one, which they really should, because that would be a lot of fun. They could actually have a couple Middle Ages history pockets, I think. But the encyclopedia, if you get one, it's going to be outdated, so we like to get most of our books used. So I grabbed this one. This was the most recent I could find used a few years ago. And anything that's outdated, you can find out what the updated information is with Google. So you use the history pockets. And for the ancient, so the other thing, the way that History Odyssey works, they have 3 levels. They have the first through fourth grade, and then they've got the middle school, and then they have high school. They're still working on the modern history and what is it called? Early modern and modern history, those two. They're still working on those for the high schoolers, so you can't do all 12 grades yet, but my kids are younger, so by the time we get up there, I'm hoping that they'll have the other two. So for the lower level, ancient history, you use these ancient Egyptians and their neighbors, and you use ancient Israelites and their neighbors. And these books have activities that you can make, recipes to make some food and eat like the Israelites or the Egyptians. And so there's a lot of just fun little projects, like how to make a long robe. And then it shows you, it tells you what you need, the fabric, how much fabric you need, and then it shows you how to wrap it around. So there's just simple activities that you can do. And throughout the lesson plan, they will tell you which page you need to use, and they'll tell you to get your materials ready for that specific page. Another thing that they recommend, that History Odyssey recommends, is Dover coloring books, which we use these a lot. I have a whole stack of coloring books that we use. And one thing I really like about the Dover is their copyright allows you, you may use the designs and illustrations for graphics and craft applications, free and without special permission. So we really like using these. I make copies for the kids all day long, and we don't color in the coloring book because Dover coloring books are a little bit pricey for a coloring book. But the great thing is every page, there's all kinds of information about the actual picture of what's going on. And it teaches you about the history. This one's Life in Ancient Rome, so it's going to teach you all about the Roman ancient history. And then there's other ones, there's current ones for other things. We have a Nutcracker story, and so it's the whole story of the Nutcracker, and there's a coloring page for the whole thing. Yeah, so we copy all the time for the kids. We don't buy gobs of these, of each one. I have gobs of them, but they're all different. And then the last thing that we used was a dictionary. Yeah, Dover's amazing. We love Dover products. There are two things that they recommended. They had Modern Rhymes in Ancient Times, and Ancient China Treasure Chest. We didn't do either of those things, so we weren't lacking anything by not having everything that Pandia Press recommended for the ancient histories. So I'm going to show you what the lesson plan looks like for each lesson. And every year isn't broken into 36 weeks. They do have a rough guideline of how you could break it into 36 weeks. But like our Middle Ages one, I think there's 40 or 42 lessons. So you do a couple lessons over a week if you're going to fit it into 36 weeks. But we've been doing Middle Ages for 1.5 years, and we're just about done. So we're just taking our time with it. So this is, let me grab another piece of paper. The sun is shining through. Okay, so this is what a lesson plan is going to look like. And I go through and I figure out what we're going to do for each lesson. And then I determine the first day that we work on this lesson, we're going to do the ones that are number 1. And then, yeah, so the history lesson, okay. So I'm going to tell you what we did for this lesson. The first day we read our chapter from Story of the World, and we drew a picture or colored a picture that went along with it. Yes, they do have lesson plans that you can download and look at to see if it would work for you. The second day we would have looked at our encyclopedia. It's a 2-page spread, so there's So I really love Usborne books. So there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of pictures to look at. We would go through, we often read the whole thing, the whole 2-page spread, but not always. And then, so that same day we would look at the dictionary, and we would find the word that we need to copy into our work. No, I can't right now, buddy. That week, the definition was temple. So we needed to look up in our dictionary temple and then write it down. And then we would work on our map, which they have maps in here. So typically we would be labeling the bodies of water. Sometimes you label cities and you find cities, but it tells you what you need to label on the map. And then the third day we would, we did an activity from the Ancient Egypt book. So we did one of these activities. So it was really basic for the 3 days that we were doing history. None of it took a long time. The longest one is typically reading the chapter. And the way that Story of the World works is they will tell you if you need to read the whole chapter or if you only need to read parts of the chapter, because Story of the World is broken down into sections for some of the chapters. So that was really nice that it walked us through. And as far as chronological order, it doesn't follow Story of the World. It follows the encyclopedia. We pretty much go from one page to the next following the encyclopedia. So that's kind of our main guideline for what lesson we're doing. And the other thing that I did, we had the Story of the World activity book. And so I would make copies of some of these pictures that are in here and use those for our stories since they go right along with what we were reading. And I would just leave a copy of it in my book because I know I'm going to be repeating this with somebody eventually. So then it's all there waiting for me. My kids are 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. So my 10 and 8-year-old daughters have... They started with the ancient and they went through Middle Ages. My 8-year-old, she was 5 when we started. So she would do super basic. She mostly just colored and listened to the story. Where my 10-year-old, she was 7. So in the beginning, when we would do the definition, we would look up the definition, we would find it in the book and we would read it together. But then I would have this typed up. And so she would just have to copy this because the definition, sometimes it's so long and it's hard looking at those little words. So I would go ahead of time to type out the definition so that all she would have to do is look at the one paper and copy it. And then I just kept those in with our curriculum so that next time it's already ready if I need somebody, if someone's younger and they need an easier way to copy the definition. So, Pandia Press, this is the back of the book. It's pandiapress.com. I don't know if you guys can see that. And, okay, so I'm going to show you when we did Ancient Civilizations. This is our pocketbook that we used. And the first time we did it, we combined all of our history coloring papers and the definitions and different things along with the pockets. And we put it in one binder. We made a binder. So the first time we did it, it was a little bit more like a lap book than what the pockets tell you to do. So we had manila folders in here, but then we also, the first lesson was talking about how history is like a tree trunk, that every year, every layer of history is another layer of the tree. So we had a tree trunk that we colored. And then her definitions were in here. And so it went through and we combined the two different things so that they all were just in one place that she could go to. The second, when we started doing Middle Ages, it was a little bit trickier because the pocket history, the history pockets that we're doing are Native Americans, and they were all the way at the end of the curriculum. So we weren't doing these throughout the whole time like we did with the ancient history. So her binder, let's see, started out with just all the coloring pages and the definitions, and I just had it in a 3-ring binder. And then we started doing the history pockets the way that they're supposed to be. You use a, what are these, 12 by 18 piece of construction paper, and you fold up the top to make a pocket. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that are in the pockets that we're using right now. So there's a map, and then they glue on a little symbol that reminds them of the pocket that goes with that symbol. And then they break down and they write something about every, they are Evanmoor, Evanmoor. So it's a little book that's all bound together, but the pages are all perforated so that you can copy them easier. And I just pull it all out, and they are in page protectors. So I have each pocket is in a page protector. And then when I'm making copies for the kids, I put all the copies in that page protector so that it's all together and I don't have to go searching. So at the beginning of a pocket, one book is all you need for all of your kids, and you can make copies for everybody. 'Cause these are for classrooms and for classroom use. So the copyright, you can make as many copies as you need for your students. So then each pocket, there's a little label with a picture. There's a little storybook, a 3-page story, and it gives information about whatever you're learning about for that pocket. And then there's little activities. So we've made some masks. No, this is a different company. You buy this separate from the Odyssey, the History Odyssey curriculum. So when you buy the History Odyssey, it's just the teacher's manual, and it tells you what things you're going to follow. So if you don't buy the history pockets and you don't want to use those, you just skip over that part in the lesson, and it doesn't affect anything. We really like the history pockets because they're so hands-on. When we learned about the Maidu, we made a seed beater, and I went onto YouTube and I found a video of people using seed beaters, and so we got to see there was a couple different ones that they had made, and we got to see them beating all the seeds out of the crops that they were picking up. So I love using YouTube. I find videos. We found, especially for the, we've been doing the Native American this time recently. That's what we're finishing up. We have one more pocket to do. And so we've been able to find traditional dances to show the kids what their traditions were like, because there are people who are still following all the traditions of all of these Native American tribes. They're still here in America, and so we were able to see videos of them on YouTube. We made a Navajo necklace. I don't know if you can see that. So you just take a piece of a cereal box, and then they have a pattern that you trace. You have the foil between the cereal box and your paper, and you just trace with a blunt pen, a blunt pencil, something, and it makes the design on the foil. And then, so we made a little Navajo necklace. So this has been really fun, and right now we are learning about the Iroquois, and my kids were so excited to get to this one because we just recently read Indian in the Cupboard, and he is an Iroquois Indian. So we were able to bring that literature that we had just read, and they're excited to be learning about that again. And they love all of the Indian in the Cupboard books. They love all of them. And then one other thing that the history pockets do is you make a mini book, and every week you get 3 pictures, and then you write about them, and the information that you're writing on here comes from that little storybook, the 3-page storybook. So they're just taking what they've learned about and writing it in their own terms to remember what the definition is. And so then they have this great little dictionary when they're finished that they can flip through and remember all of the things that they've learned for that pocket. Okay, so I have piles of books here. Okay, So I told you, how much time do you usually spend a week on history? Right now we've just been doing the history pockets. That was, it's actually been 2 lessons, but we've been stretching it out for a really long time because they're having so much fun learning about the Native American history. But I would say total probably an hour at the most that we're spending, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how long the reading is that we have to read. But it's not all at one time. So we'll read the chapter one day, we'll look at the encyclopedia a different day, we'll do our copy work of our definition a different day. So that's why I really like the History Odyssey with the Charlotte Mason method, because you can take the whole lesson and break it down into smaller, shorter chunks that work for what your family is used to doing. So this is most of our Dover history coloring books, most of them. We have Greek gods and goddesses, coloring book of Middle Ages. These are not in any kind of order. History Odyssey tells you which pocket to do. So you can, and actually when we did the ancient history pockets, I think that there was 2 pockets that we didn't even do because it didn't go along with anything that they were teaching through the lessons. So, or maybe it's this time, the Native Americans. There was somewhere along the line that they skipped a couple pockets and we did them anyways just because we like doing them. George Washington, historic American landmarks. So if you can get your hands on Dover coloring books, this was interesting. I found this one at a used bookstore, Life in Ancient Egypt. This, even though the Ancient History Odyssey talks about the ancient Egypts all the time, and they recommend Dover coloring books, this one was not one that was listed in the required. So I found this after the fact, but I picked it up because we just love the coloring book so much. So this one is one of the ones that my kids use the most because we love the Civil War. My dad loved the Civil War, and growing up, seeing how much he loved it, it's instilled a love for me, and it's passed on to my kids. My boys are obsessed with the Civil War. My younger son, when he was 2.5, I think, he was talking to somebody about the unions, and they said, "How old is he? And he knows what the unions are?" I said, "Yes, he does." Yeah. So they love anything about the Civil War. So a couple other things that we use. We have a lot of Usborne books. Just anything about the Civil War. All the military ones. So anything by Usborne that has all these little bits of information. The pictures are just great. The kids can look at them and explore and then read about stuff and learn more about them. So we have Usborne ones. We also like any kind of search and find books that have to do with, they like this one because there's knights in this one, and the girls like the castles, and just being able to find all the little things in there, facts and finding things. We have a couple of these. 2 of them were used with the ancient, and anytime I find these, I just grab them if I'm finding them used, because I know eventually we're probably going to need it, and there's just so many fun little activities that you can do in there. These were some fun books that I picked up at a used curriculum sale. Health and Medicine and Town and Life, and they're both about medieval times, and it talks about having surgery and what was going on to have surgery, going to the dentist. So it's just interesting to read and learn what it was like to live in those times and just find out some more of the social studies that were going on. We have DK is another great book series. Anything that we find by DK, we pretty much pick up those. And this one was cool. I think my mom picked this one up for us recently. Amazing History Facts. And it's the same thing as the Usborne. It's just got a bunch of little tidbits of information that gets the kids excited about history and about learning. Okay, I think the last thing, I'm just looking at all my piles here, I think the last thing I was going to talk about are just some literature books that we have. These are basic, well, this one's a level 3, but we've got some early readers that are just talking about different history characters, Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. So these were fun. We got these a little while ago, but some of our favorite ones that we've been doing a lot of extra history since we've been focusing so much on the history pockets. I wanted something to read, and there isn't a whole lot to read in the story of the world for the Native Americans. So we've been doing a little bit of different history reading. We read Who is Davy Crockett? And these Who Was books, we just love them. They're full of basic information. They're short chapters. All of my kids just love them. And let's see, we read Who Was Abraham Lincoln? My 8-year-old, he is her favorite president. And then we read What Was the Battle of Gettysburg? They have, I think there's 150 of these books that you can get. So we have Ulysses S. Grant, and we have Robert E. Lee. My kids were very upset when I went from Battle of Gettysburg to Claude Monet, because why didn't I read about these guys? So those are probably going to be the next ones. We'll probably go back to the Civil War and read about Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee and then move on. But Marco Polo is another history one that we have. And my 10-year-old has read pretty much all of these. We have maybe 20 of these, and she's read all of them, and she's read some more that we've picked up from the library. So if you can get your hands on these from the library, from a store, wherever, these are really great. It gives you a great introduction to the characters from our history, and just gets the kids excited. So anything that you can do to get the kids excited about learning and about history, I think is great, because I love history. So I don't know if you guys have any other questions before I wrap up here. I'm just trying to look at all my piles here and make sure I covered everything. I was running around this morning grabbing stuff to share with you guys and talk about how we do history in our home. So thank you so much for joining. Again, you can find me on Instagram at appleandigould. And today I was doing a Brave Scope. If you want to check out the Brave Scope, oh, you're so welcome. The Brave Scope group, it's bravescope.tv, I think. It's a group on Facebook, and there's a lot of fun ladies in there doing other great scopes. So check out the other history scopes. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time.